Hello everybody, or to use the universal greeting, Ba Weep, Grana Weep, Ninny Bong, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Synergy.
I really need a translation of that, by the way.
You won't get one.
It was very annoying that wasn't translated at any point.
It's a universal greeting. It doesn't need to be.
Is it kind of like how the middle finger is a universal greeting?
Maybe.
Uh.
Anyways, I'm Cody, aka the Scarlet Troll.
And I am Greg, aka Greg.
And I just realized I didn't do the tagline. I guess it doesn't matter. So this is a series based around the idea that a lot of movies that come out are somehow connected to something that's already come out. So we're looking back at... I've already done this. There's a bunch of these at this point. Transformers 1 is coming out this month. Actually, this weekend at the time that we're posting this. So... Because of that, we were kind of torn, because the options for this month felt like it was either Beetlejuice or a Transformers movie, and I thought to myself, there's no way in hell I'm sitting through Transformers from Michael Bay again.
Yeah, no. Not at all.
I feel like the last round of watching those movies is the last round I'll ever need to do. But then I remembered, right, Transformers 1 is an animated movie, and Transformers has an animated movie that predates all of those.
And us, for that matter.
And us! We're finally out of the mid-90s saga. Now we're in the mid-80s.
Right.
Because we're talking about The Transformers, the movie, from 1986.
Transformers!
More than meets the eye! God, the soundtrack on this is something to behold.
Oh, it's amazing. Holy crap. I don't know if it's too early to talk about the movie itself, but the thing that you are hit with, that I was hit with when the movie started, is the absolutely banging theme song done by a band called Lion. I have a feeling this is one of those cases where this song is their most well-known song, but is the hardest, most aggressive glam metal soundtrack I have ever heard in my life. To the point where I actually added it not just to my general rock and roll Spotify playlist, but I added it to the playlist that I use when I play either Ace Combat Online or Sim Racing Online. It's that hard.
Yeah, it really did go harder than you would expect a movie that's basically a 90-minute toy commercial to go, because the Transformers pretty much exist to sell toys.
It's ridiculous.
Which is part of why this movie exists, because at this point there had been 2 seasons of the Transformers show, and Hasbro had a new line of Transformers toys that they wanted to roll out and they wanted to promote. So they decided to make this movie, and they gave the people in charge a directive, and that directive was, kill off a bunch of the old characters so we can push the new ones and sell more toys.
Some of which in very traumatic fashion, no less.
I'm fascinated by this, and I don't know why, because it's not like this is some bold artistic move. This is just as cynical as anything we get nowadays, because it's based around the idea that we need to push the new toys. So, how do we do that? Well, if we kill off the characters who the current toys are based off of, then it's easier to promote the new ones because they don't have to share screen time, right? You're a genius. Let's do it. So it's just as marketing-driven and just as cynical as anything we get nowadays, but it's diametrically opposed because nowadays, so many studios are like, we can't kill so-and-so off, think of the franchise potential.
In fairness, there's a particular death that I think you told me about when we were watching the movie, and that kind of holds true considering the character that they do it to.
Yeah, I mean, this is a movie from almost 40 years ago. There's no point in being subtle about it. Optimus Prime dies in this one.
Optimus Prime fucking dies.
No, he is dead, and it's really funny, because apparently, I know I've told this story before to you, but there's also a part that I was missing. G.I. Joe the movie was, I think, written before this one, and maybe even mostly finished first, but they had to push it back, or there were some production issues that forced it to come out later, and they were gonna kill Duke in the G.I. Joe movie. That helped inspire them to kill Optimus Prime in this one. But when this movie came out first, and Optimus Prime dying traumatized an entire generation of children, because it was so profoundly sad and despairing and moody, that kids were just locking themselves in their rooms, not buying toys. Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah.
They decided, oh no, we gotta fix this for G.I. Joe. So they just changed some lines to go, oh yeah, Duke's in a coma, and then at the end went, oh yeah, he's woken up. You gonna see him? No.
But I get the feeling that that's a more visceral reaction than the death of Superman.
That depends. Are we talking the comics, or are we talking Batman v Superman?
Oh, comics. Yeah, absolutely comics.
Oh, definitely not. Superman dying in comics was a whole thing. I mean,
Fair.
to be fair, I feel like more adults slash not quite kids were in the comic market at that point, so a lot of people saw it as the cynical marketing push that it was, but I'm sure it shook up a lot of kids.
Fair enough.
Because you gotta remember, Superman's been an icon and a childhood favorite since the 30s, so Optimus Prime had only existed for like 2 years.
Now, does that create a situation where Superman looks at Optimus, the noose around his neck, and just says, first time?
Oh, now I'm sad.
Was that a little too cold for this show?
No, I like it. I like it a lot.
Alright, good.
So this was directed by Nelson Shin, who, as far as I could tell, not the actual director on a lot of things. In fact, this might be the main thing he was the director on, but he was an animator on a lot of the Pink Panther movies, the animated ones. The Hoober Bloob Highway Dr. Seuss TV special, which I'm particularly fond of.
Okay.
Land Before Time 2, 3, and 4. He was an animation producer, at least, on those.
Mixed feelings.
And the Simpsons movie, as an animation producer.
Hey, look at me, I'm the mascot of an evil corporation.
So we should probably get back to Transformers the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is... I'm not up to date on the animated series of the time, so I don't know much about Transformers G1. But I think this is set in the future relative to the seasons of the TV show that had come before it, because Spike, I guess, was the human kid sidekick in the TV show, and now he's grown up and has his own kid, Daniel. The Autobots have lost Cybertron, but they're still based on its moons, planning a counterattack, and then Megatron just decides, you know what, I'm just gonna go fuck their shit up.
Yeah, and that he does indeed. Yeah, apparently looking at the plot summary, this movie is apparently set in 2005.
Oh, wow, the distant future. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm kind of sitting there like, really? That's it? Just 19 years away? Okay, cool.
I mean, a lot can happen in 19 years.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair enough. But yeah, no, Megatron just comes with his gang. Well, first off, they hijack one of the Autobots' carriers.
Yeah.
And this might be jumping ahead a bit, but that creates kind of a weird situation where it's just, okay, so that's weird, but hey, the Autobots, I'm sure, will kind of pull it through. And they don't? Really? They are getting their ass handed to them, like, quite a bit in this.
Which is crazy, because I didn't think there were going to be enough Decepticons on that shuttle for that to make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
And yet they do. One thing I like about this is this feels like a kid just having a bunch of action figures duke it out, because everybody can just do whatever. I assume maybe if you were really following the TV series, it would probably make sense, but none of these Transformers powers really make any sense. You've got the Dinobots, who only one of them transforms into a flying animal, but they can all fly, just in their regular robot forms. Some of them can turn into one thing, some of them can turn into two things, some of them are cassette players and they have little cassette tape robots that turn into things. I don't understand any of it.
You know what? Honestly, that was the thing that dated me internally quite hard with this movie, is how a bunch of the Autobots and Decepticons have special powers that are granted by cassette players just coming out of their bodies. I'm just like, oh, that's cold. I still remember cassette players very, very well, since that's what was used to play music in my parents' cars for, like, my entire time in elementary school.
My 94 Honda Accord still had a cassette player in it.
Yeah, my first car, my PT Cruiser, had a cassette player too. Which, instead of you playing cassettes, I used an aux thing to play my phone's music through it. That's the only part about that car that I miss. It was a piece of garbage otherwise.
So a bunch of Transformers die, including Optimus Prime, who gets shot several times by Megatron while trying to save Hot Rod, who's the new... I guess he's not quite the main Kid Appeal character, because I feel like that's the Dinobots.
Yeah, the Dinobots are definitely the ones I would say would appeal to little kids more than anyone else.
Actually, you know what? I'll amend that. The Dinobots are the little Kid Appeal characters. Hot Rod is the 9-10-year-old... toy-buying Kid Appeal character.
I feel like Hot Rod's appeal comes from his car form. The car form is definitely a thing where I'm like, alright, yeah, this is like the kind of thing a small kid would want to have as an RC car, something along those lines.
No, RC's different.
Shut up.
Nah. Interesting cast in this, because you've got Leonard Nimoy, who takes over for Megatron, because Megatron gets horribly injured while fighting Prime, and then Starscream chucks him off chucks him off the ship on their way back to Cybertron, despite his pleas that he left the oven on.
Yeah. Starscream, how could you? My house will burn down. And that's not my problem.
And then he gets found by Unicron a giant planet-eating robot who is definitely not Galactus, and is voiced by Orson Welles, which is...
Yeah.
Oh my god, this was actually his final role.
Was it?
Yeah, he died like 5 days after recording this.
Oh my.
Opinions are mixed as to how on board he was and how much he liked doing this role. I mean, obviously, he died 5 days later. But apparently he told his biographer, you know what I did this morning? I played the voice of a toy. I play a planet. I menace somebody called something or other. Then I'm destroyed. My plan to destroy whoever it is thwarted, and I tear myself apart on the screen.
Existential crisis?
Maybe. It's hard to say, because Orson Welles was apparently very interested in animated cinema, and had a lot of respect for that. It could just be that this particular project was merchandise-driven and corporate-mandated enough that he was a little bitter about it. Or it could be because, he was close to fucking dying.
Right. Yeah.
So, who could even say? So, Unicron tells Galvatron, you gotta destroy the Matrix of Leadership for me. It's the only thing that can destroy me. And Megatron just goes, okay. Fingers crossed behind his back.
Well, I mean, he says okay, but not with a little bit of strife along the way, it has to be said.
And then he gets powered up into Galvatron, and his voice gets replaced with Leonard Nimoy.
Right.
And he busts into Starscream's coronation because on their way back to Cybertron, all the other Decepticons get in a fight for leadership, and somehow Starscream wins.
Which I do not get at all. Starscream's kind of a bitch.
Well, apparently, it's said by the creators that what he did was, he just stood in the back, let everybody else duke it out, and then clocked the winner in the face.
Oh, okay, so basically what happens on the rare occasions that I play Battle Royale games.
Yeah. And his coronation is happening with entirely too many trumpets, and then Galvatron busts in, turns him into stone.
This is bad comedy.
So that's also Starscream dead. That's pretty neat.
And his death was also kind of violent, too.
Yeah, just gets turned into a rock, crumbles into bits.
I know Starscream's a villain and all, but damn, little Timmy's gonna have PTSD from that and from Optimus's death. Holy shit.
Oh, right, and I found out Blur is in fact voiced by the Micro Machines guy.
Okay.
The guy who did the really fast-talking commercials for the Micro Machine cars?
Really?
Yeah, that's Blur.
So I just looked it up, and the first sentence of his page is, John, I'm going to butcher his last name, John Machida Jr., also known as Motormouth John Machida and the fast-talking guy.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So Ultra Magnus gets the Matrix of Leadership, which is the uber-powerful artifact from Optimus Prime, who gives some weird prophecy that's very vague about an Autobot will use this to light our darkest hour. Doesn't say what any of that means.
Yeah.
You'd think light its darkest hour would mean not let Prime die, but...
Optimus Prime was not the chosen one.
So all the Autobots blast off into space, but the Decepticons get in a fight with them. They all end up on a planet made of junk.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I guess... No, some will land on Quintesson, and then some land on Junkion, or something. No? Is it Quintesson? No, it's Planet of... No, the Junkions are the robot. I can't follow any of what goes on here, really.
These are words.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So, Hot Rod and this old guy, Cup, who's basically a Transformers boomer veteran, and the Dinobots...
He's basically... I don't remember exactly the character's name, but he's basically the Willys Jeep in Cars. Who always fights with Fillmore. Would you turn that disrespectful junk off?
They end up on this planet where a multi-faced robot who I thought was Alpha Q, but is apparently not Alpha Q, pronounces everybody guilty or innocent and then drops into a tank of shark robots anyway. Also, the sound effects in this. Crazy. Because you've got this really hard glam metal soundtrack going, and in the meantime, you've got peanut butter suction cup noises.
Yeah!
When Unicron eats a planet, he's doing the Shaggy and Scooby-Doo chopping sounds.
Because the movie opened with Ultron eating...
Ultron.
God, why am I like this? Unicron. Ultron wishes he was that big. It opens with Unicron eating a planet, and it's genuinely a little bit terrifying. And then you just hear the chomp. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Out of nowhere.
No, this movie's full of little stock sound effects that honestly do a really good job keeping it grounded and keeping it... I mean, it was never gonna be an awesome animated action epic because it's got all the ridiculous dialogue, and you've got Eric Idle as a robot whose entire language is based around TV, and you've got the Micro Machine guy jawing on at 50 words per second.
Yeah, no.
But the sound effects really do a good job reminding you, oh right, this is a kid's movie. Especially when somebody goes, that didn't do anything! Shit, what are we gonna do?
Right.
I feel like Hot Rod gets a bad rap. Nobody seems to like him, and sure, he's kind of annoying, but he's also not the most annoying character in this movie, he's not the most annoying Transformer ever, and he gets at least one really badass line when they're being sentenced and somebody says, one more outburst like that and you'll be held in contempt of court.
I have nothing but contempt for this court.
Alright, tell it, son. Go, girl.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a very good one.
More misadventures happen, a car chase happens to a Weird Al Yankovic song pretending to be a Devo song.
Yeah, that was weird. That was very strange.
Cup, Hot Rod, and the Dinobots show up and they all make nice with the Junkions and Wreck-Gar, so they all decide to go fight Unicron together. They all get 8.
Remove even the toughest stains.
Death to Unicron! Kill the Grand Poobah! Eliminate even the toughest stains! No muss, no fuss!
I was very taken aback by that, by the way.
And then they go inside Unicron. It turns out Hot Rod was the one meant to open up the Matrix of Leadership. Oh, right, because Galvatron stole it and killed Ultra Magnus, but then Ultra Magnus came back, which makes you wonder why they couldn't do that for Prime, but hey, whatever. Not my movie.
Plot holes, what are those?
Yeah, Matrix of Leadership activates, Unicron is dead, everybody's happy except for the ones who are dead.
Yeah. Well, they're neither happy nor sad because they're dead. They can no longer display or communicate emotion, or anything for that matter. Daniel
finds his dad, prevents him from falling into an acid vat in a weirdly tense scene of his dad screaming, "You have to do it now!"
Yeah.
Imagine if he'd missed. Imagine the trauma.
Yeah, I feel like I made a joke during that too, where it's just like, alright, if he misses then, oof.
This is a fun time. This is still a fun time. I'd only seen it once in theaters, I want to say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and rewatching it now, it's stupid. It's a really stupid movie.
Yeah, I feel like, objectively speaking, this is not a good movie, but it's very fun. It has phenomenal music, and you have to find joy in just the ridiculousness of it. I would wager it's like, if you can't find joy in how ridiculous it is, and you may need to double check to see if you have a soul.
The animation is occasionally top-notch, and then occasionally not so much, but...
yeah.
Still a pretty decent looking movie. Get some good lines, like the Dinobots knocking over a door onto one of the Quintessons, and the Triceratops one just going, "Excuse me!"
These guys are the ones to sell toys for little kids. Like, when he said that, it's just like, alright, there it is. There's the appeal.
But no, apparently this was not super well received at the time. Obviously, kids were traumatized because all my toys who I'm friends with are dead.
Yeah, all my friends are dead.
And all the real movie critics were like, what is this merchandise-driven garbage?
The movie industry in a nutshell.
You're not wrong, wow.
Yeah. I feel like if critics at that point are complaining about it, having that be a main complaint, I'm just like, dude, look around you. This has been this industry since its inception, almost. This one's just significantly more egregious about it because it's bankrolled by Hasbro.
Yeah, and distributed by the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group, who, among other things, produced Near Dark, Evil Dead 2, and Maximum Overdrive.
Okay.
Maximum Overdrive is that Stephen King movie about trucks coming to life and trying to kill people.
I might need to watch that.
I'm game.
Just on that alone, it's like Stephen King makes a movie about trucks trying to commit murder. You have my interest.
But no, the De Laurentiis Group and Hasbro partnered up to distribute both this and the My Little Pony the movie, and neither were particularly successful. In fact, combined, those two movies cost Hasbro $10 million.
Ha! Ho ho!
And by cost, I mean that was their loss.
Yeah, in 1986. That's a good chunk of change.
Yeah, this had a $6 million budget, which is apparently 6 times the budget of an equivalent 90 minutes of the TV show, but that didn't really help because they were working on this and the TV show at the same time and had a limited window to get it done. And then, with that $6 million budget, it made about $5.8 million worldwide total. So, didn't even break production budget, let alone whatever they spent on marketing. And I didn't look at what My Little Pony did, but apparently not great.
Alrighty. And that's kind of a shame because it's like, well, granted, at the time this came out, I know this did not get great reception, but this is definitely one of those... I normally don't subscribe too hard to the whole thing of movies with cult followings kind of being looked at in a different light, like years after they come out. This is the first movie that I actually kind of get that with, in all honesty.
Alright.
It's just so... insane. It's so insane and so ridiculous, and it's just such unabashed fun too. Granted, I think it's also because we live in this modern age past both 1986 and 2005 for that matter, where Transformers as a whole has a very different look and feel and meaning to it compared to when this came out. So I think that helps too, because we live in the world of Michael Bay Transformers and post-Michael Bay Transformers. And this feels... I remember watching some of the Transformers show us as a kid, bits and pieces every now and again, and it's like, there is something weirdly familiar about this. It's like, alright, this is nice. This is good. Except that the ones that I watched as a kid didn't have the glam metal, so the movie already gets points above the TV shows I watched in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you know what? It's chaotic, and it's crazy, and it's dumb, but it also harkens back to that fun time of playing with your action figures as a kid, and just having everything be whatever you want it to be, and usually it was just dumb, goofy fun, and then occasionally some people die and get really deep send-offs.
I know you said this earlier, like, at the very beginning and all that, but it really is one of those things where this movie, if you, like, open it up and look at it as a whole package, I feel like what it is that it's a group of kids playing with their Transformers, and that's how this movie is playing out. But there's one kid, the kid who's always an asshole, was too mean to, like, somebody else's Optimus Prime, and the Optimus Prime broke, and that's why we have the whole funeral thing with Optimus.
Or it's a future theater kid desperately trying to inject some gravitas and deeper emotion into this silly little kid's game.
And that kid's name? Shia LaBeouf.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf? And that's how we got Transformers 2005.
Yes, indeed.
I think we're about to get to wrap this up, but I have one more little fact in this, and that's the song The Touch, which is very heavily associated with this movie, was originally written for a completely different movie, that being Cobra, starring Sylvester Stallone, also released in 1986.
Really, as I say, because my forever association with The Touch is going to be how I'd recognize the song, started to make a joke about the song, and then realized that the movie was actually doing the song.
That's the one.
Yes, and I'm just in a weird spot of, I think this movie just stole my joke. I don't know if it stole my joke, or if the movie was like, oh yeah, you're right, good guess. I'm like, no, what?
That was amazing.
Yeah, it's just, wait, no, I was kidding. I was fucking kidding. It's like, you got the power! Oh my god.
I'll take songs I wasn't expecting for 600, Alex.
For real.
I think that about wraps us up, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's a good spot.
In that case, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video around if you're into that sort of thing. Next time, I'm not going to give a hint because we're still figuring it out, but if it's Joker, just know that means I've given up on life.
It'll be a very entertaining episode where we're talking about Joker and I'm just sitting here just be like, you okay, bud? Do you need a hug? Do you need a pillow? Do you need some Angry Orchard?
Probably definitely the latter.
Do we need all the Angry Orchard?
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.